Hello, and welcome to the first video, Little Bits of ABE Tips in the Creating the Conditions for Belonging series. We hope you are doing well, and by viewing these videos, we want to provide some insights and encouragement on how to be intentional as a teacher developing an anti-bias mindset. My name is Robin.
And my name is Mel. Today we will discuss the importance of creating identity safety in order to meet the belonging needs of your students. We will also share an activity that you can bring back to your students and highlight a couple of books in the AmazeWorks elementary curriculum that support identity safety. Lastly, we will invite you to participate in self-reflection and self-care, two important practices of anti-bias educators. Identity safety happens when children and adults feel they can bring all of who they are to a space. They can be their true selves and don't have to hide parts of their identity. When identity safety is missing, people respond out of fear.
When it comes to anti-bias education, or ABE, we can create identity safety by strengthening students' empathy and understanding and healthy complex identities. Empathy and understanding are at the core of anti-bias education, and empathy development begins early, even as babies. As children learn about their own and others' identities, they must also develop empathy for their own and others' differences. Without empathy, it is hard to have understanding of the vastly different ways in which other people live in and experience the world. One way to help children develop empathy is to guide them in identifying, naming, and describing their own feelings, as well as recognizing and caring about the feelings of others. With these skills, they are able to talk about how words and actions impact themselves and others.
Research shows that there are certain traits that support teachers in being effective anti-bias educators. Among these traits are a willingness to engage in ongoing self-reflection and growth, knowledge of others and how they learn, and an ability to use any experience as an opportunity for positive change. You may be familiar with the teacher reflection questions found in our curriculum guide and in every AmazeWorks lesson. We encourage you to use these questions as one way to continue developing your skills as an anti-bias educator. Feel free to pause this video to reflect on or discuss each of the following teacher reflection questions about identity safety. Think about a time when some part of your own identity was ignored, made invisible, or stigmatized within a group. How did that feel? What would have helped you feel visible and valued? What do you know about how your students perceive their own or others' social identities? Before we move on, let's take a moment to focus on our breathing. Deep, intentional breathing helps our body by preparing our brains to concentrate and learn. Please join me by placing your feet flat on the floor if you are able. Notice your breath. Now let's take 3 deep breaths together. Breathe in for 3, rest for 2, breathe out for 5, rest for 2. Let your breath return to normal, but feel free to repeat this exercise for yourself before or after reflection questions. You can even do this with your students before introducing a new concept or activity.
Being able to notice, name feelings we see from pictures helps us to build on our feelings vocabulary. With our students, show an image and have them name an emotion that's depicted. Discuss with the students, how do you think that this child is feeling? How can you tell they are feeling that way? Could there be another feeling being expressed? Can you show me how you'd look if you were feeling this emotion? Maybe these pictures can represent more than one emotion. When a student names an inaccurate emotion, validate their response by asking them, why do you think that that emotion is being shown? Building an emotional vocabulary and being able to notice the cues from others' facial expressions and body language helps students build a strong sense of self. For older students, using non-human pictures can be a way of making the activity a little more playful. A resource to get for you to use with older students is How I'm Feeling Conversation Cards, which uses vegetables with faces on them. They are available at a number of places, and it can help make this activity fun.
Healthy complex identity development means nurturing and affirming the development of each person's multiple personal as well as social identities. Our personal identity is made up of what makes us unique individuals, and it is what most of us go to when nurturing the growth and development of children. It includes things such as our likes and dislikes, personality traits, talents, and skills. Our social identities include significant group categorizations assigned to us by society, and it includes things like our race and ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic standing, and religious affiliations. As educators, it is important to be intentional about providing plenty of mirrors so that children can see themselves positively reflected in the world, as well as actively affirming each child's social identities as much as personal identities. We should also provide plenty of windows into the lives of others to build empathy and understanding. When both a student's social and personal identities are welcomed and validated, fear can be decreased and belonging can happen. Understanding and liking one's own personal and social identities opens up the possibility of building healthy connections with others.
A book in our elementary curriculum to share with students when talking about feelings identification and identity safety is The Day You Begin by Jacqueline Woodson. While this book is at the beginning of our third grade scope and sequence, other grade level teachers can share it with their classes too. It's a universal story for when all students enter a classroom. They wonder, do I belong here? Will I be seen? Will my voice be heard? Will I be noticed and appreciated? Many children feel like I'm the only one. Some students feel this way more than others because they're non-dominant identities. So it's important to use books like this in your classroom throughout the school year so you can continue to have discussions with students about feelings and belonging.
Another book to share is The Proudest Blue by Ibtihaj Muhammad, which is part of the 5th grade curriculum, but fitting for other grades too. Both the main character, Faisa, and her older sister, Asiya, are proud of their Muslim identity and excited for Asiya to wear her hijab to school for the first time. As Faisa watches other students tease her sister about the hijab, she learns from Asiya different ways to manage her emotions and show resilience in the face of bias-based mistreatment. This book allows for important discussions that affirm Muslim identity and help students process how to respond to identity-based teasing. The illustrations can also be used to discuss emotions felt by the characters.
As you read either or both of these books with your students, take time to let them identify the emotions that the different characters are feeling throughout the books. Encourage them to use more precise language and expand their emotional vocabulary. One activity you can do with your students is to invite them to identify when they felt the different emotions that they identified in the book. Using a piece of string that's about the size of your screen and hold one end in one hand and the other in the other hand around the index fingers. Using this piece of string, so that you can wind in as they are answering and responding, saying these statements. I felt fear when I crossed the street with my little sister and a car was coming fast. The idea is that by the time they wind and unwind the string slowly, they should be able to describe a time when they felt fear. Thus, repeat this activity using the following prompts.
I have felt worried when. I have felt pride when. I have felt comfort when. I have felt curiosity when. I have felt brave when. I have felt joy when.
Sometimes discussing emotions with students forces us to tap into our own empathy and thus using extra energy by the end of the day. Self-care is important to put into your teaching routine. School communities that are committed to continual growth and improvement take time to practice continual renewal. On an individual level, it means taking time for self-compassion and self-care. Self-compassion doesn't make the hard and painful things go away, but it helps us more skillfully transcend or move through them. One practice that you can engage in is to shake your body. This may sound silly, but when you shake your body, your brain releases oxytocin to help calm your body's reactions to stress. Activities that get the body shaking can be helpful for you and your students. So take some time to shake. Watch the suggested video sent along with the little bits of ABE tips resources page so that you can learn the science behind how shaking can be a self-care tip to try.
Being an anti-bias educator is a tough job and it takes commitment. Self-validation and recognition is important. As Audre Lorde said, when I dare to be powerful, to use my strengths in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid.
Thank you for your commitment to creating identity-safe learning environments for your students so we can move closer to belonging. We will be sharing more little bits of ABE tips as you share the AmazeWorks lessons and books throughout the school year. Reach out if you want to continue the conversation and follow us on social media. Until then, be well and goodbye.